Variety.tv.
All right. Welcome to the Women's Division final of the Australian Ultimate Championships. It's been a 4-day-long tournament and a many-month-long season. These teams have prepared and worked for a very long time to get to this point, and we're excited to bring you this incredible matchup between Melbourne's Ellipsis and Sydney's Greater Western Sydney Blaze. I am your commentator, Rob Swan, here with my co-host, Katie Locke. How are you doing this afternoon?
I am good. I am excited. I am particularly excited to see how GWS perform in this game. They are a relatively new club, only making their debut in Australian Ultimate last year.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's been incredible to see them rise. They came out and performed really well, losing closely in the bronze medal matchup 1 year ago, and this year dominating the season, having a very successful run thus far and crushing their semi-final 14-4.
Who were they playing in the semi-final? Was that Factory?
Yeah, they were playing Factory, and it was looked like a close game, but just running over the top of them. And same can be said for Ellipsis, just demolishing Sydney's Rogue by the same scoreline in their semi-final yesterday afternoon. So these teams both well rested and ready to go here as Holly Reid from GWS launches the opening pull. Caro Ma fields the disc for Ellipsis. Finds Martins on their opening offense, and she shoots straight away. Phillips underneath it. A paddock of space, and all the space in the world. That is incredible, efficient, and truly never worried.
No, that was literally the simplest, quickest offense that you can pull off. Get the pull picked up, dish it off to a strong handler, and huck it long to a blazing receiver. And Kat Phillips, boy oh boy, she can receive for days.
Absolutely. Kat Phillips, one of the greatest players in the country at the moment, has played at an international level for Australia on numerous occasions and truly will be a superstar for this Ellipsis team. It's going to be interesting to see how much they use her and what they ask out of her this game.
Interesting comment, though, from me is Kat's number has changed. She has been known historically as Kat Phillips number 35, and she took that number through when she started playing AFL as well and joined the Melbourne Football Club. Do you know anything about the change of number?
Yeah, it's been interesting. It's hotly contested whether or not it's a uniform manufacturing mix-up or a very super secret coaching technique to make them harder to scout. They are, of course, intending to go to the World Ultimate Club Championships later this year in Ohio, this Ellipsis team, and they're dominant on the Australian scene, and we're all very excited to see them take it against the world as GWS Blaze come down for their opening offensive point. Hudson with a disc. Finds Reeve with a beating grab in the center there. Reeve goes around to Monty, but it's just through the hands. Monty, an experienced Australian representative, having played both at the under-24 and the open age level for the Australian women's teams. Justice with a disc finds Meehan. Meehan leading Dennis out the front there. Dennis on the near sideline. Looks off Cersei in the open space. Leads Meehan out on just in front of her there. So the wind conditions largely similar as they have been across this week, going largely right to left on your screen, but a little bit towards the camera. So the right-hand end zone that Hudson is shooting from at the moment is definitely the upwind end zone and harder to score in as GWS get going in the other direction. Reeve for the disc now, an effective primary cutter, shoots long. Oh, and that's absolutely just out of the reach of Paddy. So GWS getting a nice block, putting a lot of pressure on this Ellipsis offense and forcing them into a small space there. Ellipsis are a very, very possession-focused team. They won't look to give GWS any sort of cheap chances. GWS, conversely, a very defensively minded team, and they'll be looking to get as many blocks as they can and just see what they can do with the opportunities they have. As Dignam gets the disc, advances up the field to Justice, back to Dignam. Dignam looks inside, but Graham able to cut that one out. Looked like it might have been intended for Palmer, but she was turned away.
Yeah, an unfortunate skill error there. Not often we see that from Ellipsis.
Hudson will field the disc for GWS and looks wide. And Dennis coming through, cutting that pass out and getting the block in front of Graham. They'll have a little bit of a chat about it.
We have game advisor Lucy Alexander coming in for the discussion.
It looks like that one is an uncontested foul there. Dennis coming through and putting a lot of pressure on her. Looked like she got that block, but she did initiate contact with Graham coming in on that back hip. So she'll uncontest that, and it will be Graham's disc. Graham coming off the back of a gold medal winning run with the under-22 mixed team from New South Wales. Is a very versatile player there and is expanding her skill set here. A number of her teammates from that team also present on this GWS roster. So a lot of upcoming youth talent backed up with some really veteran cannons. Hudson among them. Looks around for Reeve. Reeve drawing the matchup of World Games player Mick Dignam. GWS go wide to Perriman and then centre to Hudson. Hudson, one of the cannons for this GWS team. They're very aggressively looking for a bunch of long shots, and they have a large number of athletic receivers and large throwers. And Hudson, a lot of range. Looks off Perriman, finds Monty in the underspace. Monty finds Reeve. Reeve looks for Shen. Shen in the front of the end zone, and GWS respond. It's 1-1, 2 offensive holds.
GWS looking very strong there and showing that they are definitely a force to be reckoned with and are not going to be steamrolled by Ellipsis.
Absolutely, Ellipsis has been one of the dominant teams. They are hunting their third back-to-back title after taking the title in their inaugural year in Ballarat a couple of years ago, and then last year at this very same venue with a dominant performance in the final over Sydney's Rogue. And this year looking to dispatch the #1 Sydney team. Melbourne and Sydney, two of the hotbeds of Australian ultimate talent, helped a lot by their obviously larger population base, but obviously it helps a lot. There are a lot of extremely experienced players in both of those towns, and they put a lot of effort into developing younger players, and those systems just enable the creation of young talent that's up and coming, and that really shows on both of these rosters here. They've got a number of veteran stars who know what they're doing. They've been at this level a number of times, but they're backed up with a lot of players that represented Australia at an under-24 or even an under-20 level.
Or even with this Ellipsis team, they've even recruited a new rookie this season, Ruby Anderson, not on the field currently, but this is her first ever women's season.
And she's doing amazingly as Ma looks for Martins, and that is clinical as you like. This Ellipsis downwind offense looks unflappable.
It's insane.
Chow fielding the disc there, finding Ma on the wing, and just that beautiful, perfectly weighted shot. We've seen a lot of teams struggle going downwind. It might add a bit of range to your throw, able to get the disc down there, but having the disc hold its edge and stay aloft for a streaking receiver requires a deft touch that Ellipsis have shown they've got every single time so far. That's 2-1, another hold. These teams just playing around with each other, not having faced each other in the regular season yet. Blaze not coming to the Brisbane-Canberra Invitational, traditionally attended by all the top teams, and obviously being from two different states, not playing each other at their regional qualifiers. So it's really good to see these two teams matching up in the final. They're opposite sides of the draw, and they definitely deserve to be here.
And both teams coming in with the top seed from their region and showing that that top seed is for a reason.
Absolutely. Powerhouse matchup here as Meehan rips the pull. It's dropping down well. Fielded by GWS. Handley with the disc. Finds Chan. Up to Mortimer. Centers to Handley. A lot of deep cutters going for GWS. Not shooting now. Hammer comes late in the count. Mortimer looks for it, but Dignam hits the deck, gets the block, and Meehan with the disc. Rips it long, it's stable in the wind, but it's buffeting late. Dignam's in the area, takes the grab. That's an incredible read.
A fantastic read there from Dignam, but there's been a foul called.
Yeah, there was a lot of contact earlier as they were fighting to establish position and read that disc as it was curling away towards this near sideline. And Monty and Dignam having played together a couple of times on the under-24 Stingrays in 2015 and then in 2016 with the open age Firetails. Fighting and battling for position there. They're two very dominant receivers. And they'll have a discussion about whether or not Monty was obstructed from making a play at the disc there.
There was contact before. I saw you tip over the head from behind, but I didn't realise there was contact before that.
I didn't see any contact beforehand either, so there may have been, but we didn't see it.
Okay. Do you want to send it back? Yeah, I'm going to contest it.
Yep.
So they've asked the perspective of the game advisors there, and that's by no means a ruling. It's just an additional third perspective and also clarification on the rules they've required. And that disc will be contested, and it'll go back to Meehan. Ellipsis will retain possession.
Nice run, Monte, and again!
It's a great tool to have our game advisors mic'd up so we can get that insight on the call.
Absolutely. Meehan finds Trenwith up the line. She shoots out in front of Dignam, but Monty with the pace takes an extra couple steps and screams in front for the block.
That's just a great example of putting a bit of buffer in the defense there from Monty. She was able to get in front just by buffering off a little.
Yeah, it's great to see that this GWS defensive squad is able to get blocks on Ellipsis. It's been one of the things that a lot of teams have struggled with. The Ellipsis team, a very consistent offensive squad. But GWS throwing a couple of wrinkles early as they reset to Handley in the center of the field. Handley surveys their options. Big wide backhand and Monty in an acre of space. Dignam dropping off to cover the shot. Monty takes it anyway. Oh, and Paddy just can't get it in the end zone. They're really asking a lot of her in this point. Trenwith brings it up, finds Meehan. Meehan on this near sideline. Ellipsis attacking a lot down this side here. Not able to hit the swings this early. And Meehan looks for Dignam, and Dignam hits the deck and takes the grab. Such an elite player here. Trenwith with the disc. Puts it out in front of Meehan, getting every other and looking for those shots. Saliu out the back, looked off. Goes around to Dignam. Bobbles it, but holds it. And Moore looks long. She's got Meehan underneath it, and you in the backup space. Puts it out in front, but it's bobbled. And Meehan is unhappy about that one. Maybe a bit of a hasty shot to the end zone there, looking to ice the point, and that one's just popped up in the wind. You with a good effort to get it, but not quite there.
You definitely had the right sort of positioning on that one, but that wind just makes those throws a little bit unpredictable sometimes, and you've got to weight it perfectly just to get it to sit.
Yeah, there's no haste allowed. It's important to maintain focus all the way through as Handley can't connect with Barnes. And Ellipsis get a short field to work. Dignam with the disc again. He's getting a lot of action in this point. He's very nigh on and unguardable. Shoots inside. Finds you with the hands and the toes. She's put Ellipsis on the board again.
You, another one of the Stingrays on this team, representing Australia over in Perth earlier this year. There is a number of current and alumni Stingrays.
Absolutely. I would say this Ellipsis team is extraordinarily credentialed, and they do love to show it off. They've got a great online social media presence. You can check out Ellipsis Ultimate on Facebook and Instagram, Caro and Sally on Instagram, and all the previews you like on Inside Out Ultimate.
Inside Out Ultimate is great for some hot takes, as well as some really interesting articles for people with all levels of Ultimate experience.
Absolutely. Go check it out, IOU Ultimate, IOUltimate.com. So Ellipsis with a break there. That's a 3-1 lead. Looking good in this game here. Their defense was putting a lot of pressure on GWS, and their offense didn't look unstoppable, though. They defensive line working on offense. They were working well, but they did yield the disc a few times to GWS. Give them a shot at it.
Definitely, and I wonder if this Ellipsis team, like I know they're planning to peak in July, so they're not actually potentially even at their full potential yet.
It's amazing to think about the heights that these ladies could reach as. That's an unbelievable block. Anderson with a field presence from the rookie, screaming through. GWS stifled early. Phillips with the disc. Phillips shoots over the top. She's got Justice on the end of it, but that one just sailing just out of the field, and she's not happy with that. Phillips not known for a careless turnover and potentially looking to ice the point and really stick it to GWS. A single pass goal, but getting a bit hasty and gifting it back to them. GWS, of course, with a whole field to work here, and they're on this near sideline, the low side of the field, and it's going to be very, very, very difficult to work from there. As they find Reeve on the sideline. Shoots inside, and that's sailing high. Carmen's underneath it. That's a great grab. Centers to O'Connor. O'Connor finds Shen around. Shen up to Lingle, but she can't close her hands around that. Justice with the disc. She'll advance it into the middle calmly. To Dennis, to Phillips. Phillips to Dennis. Dennis showing great patience here to holster it, showing that possession focus as they go to Cersei on the far sideline. No jump set up for Ellipsis here, trusting their players to get free as required and make those breaks as Cersei takes the inside to Justice. Justice with not many options at the moment, looks off the open. Phillips goes to the around. Dennis with a great diving bit at that one, but the disc just getting caught under her wrist and pushed into the ground. She's ground stripped herself there.
Now you mentioned Cersei, she's one of the 2 Canadian imports on this team, hailing from Quebec. Played for Phillips this last year and has come back with them for the Nationals and What campaign.
She's making a big impact already as Reeve waits around in the handler space, not bothering to clear, just waiting to get the frisbee. Advances it up the sideline here. Parker with the disc. Back around to Carmen. Carmen goes wide. Hudson with the disc. Hudson inside to Reeve. And there's a pick call. So they'll discuss whether or not it affected the play, and it looks like it's not on the reception of the disc, but Dennis was picked as she was guarding Shen in the deep space. So Reeve, an up-and-coming star of Australian Ultimate, drawing the Kat Phillips matchup there. Looking for the early inside break to O'Connor, but more calling a violation.
Potentially that O'Connor started moving before the disc was tapped in, would be my assumption.
She's a keen bean and ready to go. It's a really nice opening move from Reeve to just look at that inside break, and that'll give O'Connor, who's got some shots of her own, space on that break side to look deep. Parker and Anderson quite a distance away, and there might be a shot open there, but it's going to be a big ask going left to right into the wind here. And the disc will go back. Coming in on 3. Reeve and Phillips. I'm excited to see this matchup develop as the game goes across and see what Reeve can do against the true superstar. Hudson with the disc on the far sideline now. Looks like there's another call. This GWS offense generating a lot of picks at the moment and is getting really stagnant. It's making it very difficult for them to get into flow and get a lot of disc movement. So they'll be looking to clean this one up and see if they can generate some actual space. As Hudson goes around and looks for Reeve, but
Travel called.
yeah, it's a long way around Cersei, so if she's taken a couple extra steps or dragged a foot to get there, it's very believable. Hudson with the disc again, lets it fly. Parker's underneath it. She's read that very well, and she's right on the doorstep. Flips it into Lingle, but she was coming in hot. Not ready for that one, and that is a cheap turnover.
Just had a bit of red line fever.
Ellipsis going the other way. Cersei snatches that disc up and is stabilizing their offense here.
Cersei showing her wealth of experience from both Canadian and Australian Ultimate.
Goes the middle to Dennis, and now we've got Phillips on the sideline here. Guarded by Reeve. It's a very stop-start point, and it's been a long one. GWS will be disappointed that they're now on defense, and they've given it up so freely after working it so well all the way up the field. And Phillips off the hands of Dennis. Phillips and Dennis both selected for the Australian World Games squad. It's a Both played the test matches in Australia against Japan, a series that Australia took 2-0. That connection normally good as gold, but it's a very spicy wind going right to left and pushing that blade from Phillips, making that catch a little bit harder than it needs to be. As a shot goes up from GWS, and that's falling short, and Dennis getting that block back. Goes to Trenwith on the line, looks for a foot drag. It's confirmed in, Moore with the disc. Moore, a former Worlds Game player herself and home club Sydney Rogue, but has joined this Ellipsis squad for the Worlds campaign as she goes around to Cersei, but there's a stall called. Was quite a high stall count. Moore looked off the early open option, and that'll be uncontested. This is a great spirit from Moore to recognise she wasn't able to get that break off in time. Full credit to the mark of O'Connor. GWS with another chance here. The defense really keeping them in it. Hudson with a disc to Reeve. Hudson on the sideline looking long. The shot goes. It's just past Parker, and Carmen wasn't making a run at that. Trenwith shepherding it into the dirt.
As you said, that the defensive strategy of GWS is really what's keeping them in these offensive points for them and making sure that they don't go down without a fight.
And that's a nice move out the start from Ellipsis. Phillips to Cersei, and Cersei looking long, but Moore on the end of that and just not able to reel that one in. Hudson will bring in the disc in. She's holding a big offensive load for this GWS team as Reeve takes her turn to shoot it into the wind, and Trenworth blocks on blocks on blocks. Finds Justice on the inside. She's got Anderson in the very deep space. Finds Dennis on the under. Dennis to Phillips. Reeve had a go at it. And Phillips with a spicy shot. And that's an incredible grab. Trenworth with a double happiness. Might even say triple. She got more blocks in that point.
Fantastic read from Trentworth on that. That was a very spicy forehand from Phillips, and I thought that was gone, but Trentworth just plucked it from the sky.
Kat Phillips, an incredibly athletic player, has played with the Melbourne Football Club, the Demons, and her athleticism on display, getting open at will, but an incredible thrower. Taking all the assists she needs and just dropping that one in, and Trentworth going up early, taking the confident two-handed grab. One-handed. So that's a 4-1 lead for Ellipsis. 2 breaks in a row after a few initial holds. So GWS team will take a timeout and reassess what they need to be doing offensively. Their defense is working for them. They're generating turns on a very clinical and efficient Ellipsis squad, but they need to be converting them. They're not turning them into points on the board.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that they're taking a timeout at this point, just to reassess their options and try to figure out what they need to do next.
Yeah, we've said it time and time again. One of the keys to going deep into a tournament like Australian National Championships is adaptability. Teams will change up their strategies to beat you, and you have to be able to change back and work around the defenses that they're playing. Realize where the holes are, particularly later in the game when the change-ups come.
And particularly playing to the conditions as well. That was something that I think has been prevalent with the strong wind here, changing directions all the time and changing its intensity. And we saw that in Wollongong at Division 2 2 weeks ago as well. It was ridiculously insane wind, and depending on what field you're on, that changed the direction of the wind as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's convenient that all the fields here at Runaway Bay on the Gold Coast are oriented in the same direction, so all of the games with essentially an up-down wind. It's been prevailing right to left on your screen mostly the whole tournament, with small changes in intensity and a little bit of sky water falling on the players yesterday.
Was a little bit moist yesterday.
Yeah, but conditions affect everyone equally, and part of being an elite athlete is being able to outlast and adapt, as this Ellipsis team have shown they have been able to do, not letting GWS convert. This pull from Justice goes up, and that'll settle around the brick mark, and Handley will field for GWS. Looks off Chan on the open under, and there'll be a pick right out the gates. So might have had to talk about a few things, but appears they haven't had to talk about getting picked less. As Handley shoots over the top, and Monty wasn't expecting that to come. She was looking all left, ready for Handley to fake out and hit that big fat side backhand, but she's elected for the blading forehand instead.
Just shows the importance of up calls as well, not just for defensive players, but for letting your teammates know what shoulder to look over.
Absolutely. There'll be an unfortunate miscue, giving Jodie Palmer the chance to rally this Ellipsis offense. Finds Egan Griffiths. Dignam, quick release. Yu under the disc, goes up early. And Chan will grab that one and put it into the dirt. So that's hasty play from GWS. So really just giving the disc straight back to Ellipsis, almost exactly where it was turned over, and Meehan will bring it in. Ellipsis a chance to convert on a short field. Meehan to Egan Griffiths, to Meehan again. Meehan looks long, Yu's under it again here, chased by Monty. She goes up early, but is unable to close her hand around that one.
Monty just getting the right body position there to put enough pressure on you. Just can't pluck that one.
It was a much better throw than the first one, coming down and giving you a very reasonable bid at that. But still, Ellipsis not converting in front of the end zone and just yielding the disc once again to GWS as Handley goes around the mark and shoots the wide backhand, and Yu comes across for the flying block right in front of the camera. That's an incredible play. That's what we like to see.
That was a fantastic put up from GWS though. Beautifully weighted throw, but you just read that like a book. And
Meehan goes the other way, sailing in the air again, and Monty gets this one. Back to Reeve, moving it quickly, Handley with the disc, cutters out the back, and she elects for a bit of patience, something this GWS offense could really use, and then shoots it anyway. Monty in space, but it's trailing left, and that's a one-handed grab. GWS closing the lead. That's 4-2 Ellipsis.
that was a fantastic grab by Monty. She just had the right position in front of Palmer and just showed her excellence.
Yeah, Palmer betting on the wind a little bit there, coming a bit back off, assuming that disc is going to sail high, get picked up with the wind under it and sail further to the break side, but Monty going up at exactly the right time to take the grab.
Great read by Monty.
So it's not very pretty, but it works. Despite some incredible plays by Ellipsis, GWS hold their offense there, and it's 4-2. So
Oh, there's the highlight reel of Sally Yu doing that layout right in front of the field camera.
it's incredible stuff. Don't worry about the equipment. We're here to see the players. So it's been interesting to see this GWS offense has definitely made it through. So they've managed to hold that point, but it's a lot of turns in that. So they're really struggling to get past this Ellipsis defense. It's going to be tough for them to be able to hold that up across the whole game. There's a lot of difficult things that need to happen, and it's going to be a long game if it's going to take them that many shots at it. As Reeve pulls it and it lands just inside the field. Chow with a disc. And it's popped up wide. Phillips underneath. Takes it strong. Goes to Prentice. Yet another World Games player on this Ellipsis roster. Finds Phillips again. GWS playing a different defense here. They've got a lot of players around the disc as Prentice goes back to Phillips. Phillips goes wide to Ma. Ma to Prentice. To Ma in the center here. To Prentice, quick movement, one of the great offensive principles of the Ellipsis zone attack. Vano on the sideline to Phillips. She's got Prentice with a point on the far sideline. Is patient and goes to Chow, but Chow bounces it out of the hounds and Lingle puts it into the ground. So GWS, an opportunity for a break here. An uncharacteristic turn from the Ellipsis offense.
Definitely, and GWS want to take this by both hands and make sure they put it in that end zone.
Absolutely. Hudson with a disc. Not got a lot of options, and Prentice with a hand block on the mark. That's a quick stifle. Ma goes to Prentice. Prentice in the center of the field. Prentice with too many open options on that side. Finds Ma in the center. Ma goes to Prentice. Confident throws, even in the wind, looking very unaffected. Prentice to Phillips. Phillips with the hop and the toes in the end zone. Easy as you like. They might have given up a turnover there, but instantly got it back. GWS unable to complete a single pass on their defensive offense. Ellipsis hold 5-2.
And that's the first turnover we've seen on Ellipsis offense point so far. You don't often see those, so...
Yeah, it's signs of life, and this is what GWS are hoping for. I think the best they can look for is to give themselves a chance. And they've done that there, but unable to move it and unable to get the disc moving. They look best when they're in flow, and there's a bunch of different options they can throw to. But getting it off a static start on this near sideline has proven very difficult for a number of teams.
Definitely. One thing that's just interesting I'd like to comment on from the Ellipsis team is seeing Kara Ma in a handler position. She usually is quite an effective cutter.
Yeah, she's really expanded her role. She's very athletic and takes a lot of high grabs, but it's her ability to quickly move the mark and accelerate immediately after throwing to just get that disc back that has really differentiated her and is pushing her into the ranks of elite players in Australian Ultimate.
Yeah, she's risen up the ranks very fast coming out of Deakin University in Melbourne.
Yes, has led that squad to a gold medal at the Australian University Games.
Apologies for stopping mid-sentence, we just had a bit of feedback on our headsets. Just want to make a quick shout out and thank you to Emma and Toms for their ongoing support of Ultimate in Australia. They often provide us with some delicious smoothies and bars, especially they've got their, Rob's got his raspberry quencher in front of him now. But yeah, they've launched their new Colour Cleanse range. Drinks are all natural and contain no sugar, so thumbs up from us.
Yeah, get around them. They're quite tasty and good for you too.
And hey, anybody who loves to sponsor Ultimate, we'll take it.
Yeah, fast-growing sport, attracting new players from around the nation and incredible athletes all the time, as you can see here. A lot of new players coming in and making a difference already as Ma rips the pool for Ellipsis, and she's chosen a roller there. It's quite effective, getting maybe 10 extra meters that she might not have been able to get in the air as Graham fills the disc. Reeve still drawing that Phillips matchup. Monty with a disc here. Monty and Reeve drawing heavy defensive assignments from Dignam and Phillips. And Reeve shoots to Courtney Patty, but that one's incomplete. And there'll be discussion about whether or not the pick affected what happened. So if the pick was called during the throw, then play continues. And really it looked like Patty wasn't able to hold on to that on her own. And that's a good spirit from GWS. Ellipsis disc. Phillips with it. He's got Egan Griffiths out the back. Alexa the inside. Trenwith shoots long. Egan Griffiths around. Oh, and Barnes with a great read. Knocks that away. Barnes recently having played with the Australian Masters women's teams that took a bronze at the World Beach Ultimate Championships in Royan last year. Reeve goes wide, but it's bobbled. And one's popping in the wind. It's just making life tough for their receivers and sitting poorly right between Chan and Barnes. So very, very difficult. The wind is increasing as we get into the afternoon now. There's a few grey clouds on the horizon.
Feeling a couple of raindrops coming through, so hoping that doesn't pick up too much.
Well, this is a game of adaptability. As Phillips goes to Ma, and that's an incredible grab. Ma to Edgar Griffiths at the front of the end zone. And that's not what the GWS defense is trying to do. That is just simple open cut, open cut, open cutter. So Ellipsis, GWS getting caught a little bit off guard coming out of the stoppage there. Ellipsis bringing it in for a quick 1-2 punch. And they've extended their lead 6-2.
We just saw Kara Ma's fantastic one-handed grab. She's just so quick and just punches, plucks it. There we go. Look at that. Fantastic work. That could have easily just risen right over her head, but she just read that with perfection.
Yeah, that's a really Great read on it there. She's gone up at the peak of her jump and just snatched it when she needed to. So we can see the two coaches of the teams engaged in a mental battle here. Steve Wright coaching Ellipsis and Mitch Sutton coaching GWS plays. They've both had very, very successful seasons, and it's interesting to see their different attitudes and their different approaches going tit for tat here.
And on the sideline, we actually have a couple of Ellipsis players who have been playing nationals with other teams.
Yeah, so it's interesting. This Ellipsis World Squad is comprised of players from around the country as they come screaming down on defense here. And that's a cheap turner from GWS. As this wind is picking up massively now. It's coming almost directly towards the camera, moving into a very difficult crosswind, making almost any throw difficult as Mian pushes a short one. Dignam able to jink free from Carmen, and that's 7-2 Ellipsis, 2 breaks in a row. As conditions are worsening rapidly at the moment, there's grey clouds rapidly turning into raindrops on our faces here, but Ellipsis look unfazed. They're all smiles, all high fives as they approach the halftime break looking confident. As we were previously saying, this Ellipsis squad is going to the World Club Championships, and they have taken some of the top talent from around Australia. This is a prodigious and a very successful club, and they've drawn a lot of other players like Kim Spragg, Becca Zigerman, Sophie Taylor playing with other teams and nationals.
They also have Eva Weverall that they've recruited out of Capital Punishment from Wellington in New Zealand. And obviously, as I mentioned earlier, a couple of Canadians but those are returning Ellipsis players who have previously lived in Melbourne.
Yeah, so you can see these Ellipsis players getting around their club and working very hard and giving a lot of sideline support, but obviously being the star players in their hometowns, they have chosen to play with their teams for national championships, and then after this, it will be all worlds, all focus there. As that roller pull comes down to this low side, and this is a very weak position for the GWS offense, as Hanley brings the disc in here, marked by Justice. Two cannons staring each other down. Finds Reeve on the inside. Reeve goes to Barnes. It's tipped, and Moore collects. Moore to you, back to Moore. Best friends working together. Moore goes around to Justice. She looks long, but there's no one out the back. Justice finds Trenwith. Trenwith goes to Dennis. Dennis to Mian. They're advancing down this open side, but she looks off Chung in the end zone. Mian fakes the around, finds Justice, but Justice probably thinking about the goal already. Can't close her hands, and the shot goes the other way. Monty's underneath it, but taking shots from the low side is always going to be a difficult prospect. The low side being the side closest to the camera, and shots from there, as soon as they go in the air, they're going to be pushed towards the out of the field. If you take them from the far side, away from the camera, at least they're going to stay in for a little bit. Mian with the disc, finds Justice on the inside.
Players from both teams forcing them into the wind, trying to make them get onto the low side.
Yeah, it makes those low side throws nice and easy. They're going downwind, but breaking into the wind is very difficult, but Trenwith makes it happen with a little help from Dennis. Finds Chung. Justice winding up that backhand. Unable to get off quick, takes the inside flick instead, and Moore with the diving grab. A pick called, but the grab required to save possession there, so great presence of mind from her. And the disc will stay with Justice. Ellipsis knocking on the door of halftime here. GWS needing to stabilize and getting a few more points on the board, but this wind is not working to their advantage here. As Justice goes inside, but it's over the head of Trenwith. Small window, closely marked by Barnes, and the shot's gone up straight away. And Handley unable to get there, but definitely not the intended target. Barnes was out the back, that's who the shot was for, but sailing way too high and dying too early.
That was definitely thrown from the right position, but just wasn't the right throw to put up.
Yeah, a bit too much lift on that one as Moore takes the disc in the center. And there's a travel called, but it's not a stoppage. But they'll chat about it. And everybody stopped, so there's been a stoppage initiated regardless, so that Moore and Perriman can have a chat about it. Just reassure what's going on. Offering a bit of clarification on the rules and what is to occur. Disc will be coming in on 3 thanks to our very, very helpful game advisors. Ellipsis quite spread out in the stack at the moment. Moore with no options to start with. Good static disc defense from GWS. Dennis getting free out behind the disc. Dennis, oh, Chung with an early jump, but takes it second time. Yu with a disc on this low sideline here, staring down the end zone. Goes around, it's bobbled up, but sitting nicely in front of Trenwith. Trenwith goes inside late to Justice. She bids for it and gets a right hand onto it, but couldn't wheel the left hand. Handley picks it up, sees Barnes out the back, but elects not to shoot. Swings to Perriman instead. Perriman goes around to Chan, and that's a nice grab with a knee slide there. Chan pointing and looking at the options, and looks like she's flicked that disc away. And there'll be a question of whether or not that was a legitimate hand block, or whether the disc was still in Chan's hand. Obviously, not allowed to just hit it out of their hands.
Ultimate being a non-contact sport.
Explicitly non-contact. As Chan surveys her options and displays no signs of haste. Oh, gives a rough one to Reeve, but she'll take it, and Reeve, oh, just in front of the bidding you. Got to make sure of that. Reeve looking for a lot of inside flicks, which are proving difficult as the wind picks up here. Trenwith, no trouble going downwind here. Meehan goes to Trenwith again. Trenwith looking into the end zone, trying to float that in front, but Monty doing a great job of coming off her player and reading where Ellipsis are moving, which is that downwind sideline, as GWS off to the races, and Mon Chan a bit too casual. Amy Barnes with the grab, and GWS needing to marshal their offense here. Parker with a disc, they're looking good. Gone downwind a bit, Reeve in the center, no mark. Demanding patience from her team. She's floated that one up, and Monty's underneath it, and GWS have taken that goal. They've said, hey, wait a minute here, it's not ready for halftime.
That was just an excellent example of some give-go offense, with Monty getting that moving straight away off that D, rather than walking it up to the line. She just wanted to get the give-go and get it moving, and they got halfway down the field before they had to slow and center.
Yeah, and that's a really effective move. I think it's the static defense of this Ellipsis team has proved nigh on unbreakable. So being able to move the disc and get them out of position early is going to make it much easier to advance the disc to the center of the field. And from the center, it's going to be much easier to advance it to the high side. Barnes with great position there to save possession. And then GWS with a lot of options and all the advantage, as the Ellipsis defenders were largely behind them. Reeve with a lovely leading pass for a goal. So it's been largely Ellipsis this half. They've been definitely in control of this game. GWS managing to hold their offense after numerous turns every now and then. But it's not been consistent enough to keep pace with this Ellipsis offense. Back on the field again after a nice long rest. Egan Griffiths, Ma, Martins, Phillips, Chow, Weatherall and Prentice. Truly a star-studded roster. It's Prentice. Fields to Phillips, already moving. Phillips bounces it to Ma. Ma collecting it. Better catch than the throw deserved, but Prentice on the run. Being stymied here by this GWS zone defense, but they're past the wall now and they're moving. Martins finds Chow. Chow looks for Weatherall, and that is a great offensive point for Ellipsis to take half 8-3. Looked a bit stationary for a little bit. Not a lot of options, but a quick 1-2 managed them to move the disc, get open in space, and once they were past that wall, a quick 1-2-3 punish, and then into the end zone. Ellipsis take half 8-3, a dominant 5-point lead as we go into the break. We'll leave you with a couple of minutes of highlights from this cracker of a match so far. And we'll be back in 2. Okay.
House party win!
This way, so like it's probably gonna stay kind of away. This? Oh, it was like on the ground, so I just picked it up and put it on the chair. It was getting trashed. Oh yeah, I'll call it Julia if you want. Oh yeah, I'll call it Julia. Hey. Hey. As is tradition here at the Australian Ultimate Championships, halftime in the women's final, we have the men's duelio. It is a foot race and they're off. They're running down the other end. There's a bunch of dudes running on the field. Shepard in front. Shepard, the superstar from Bench Ultimate, screams into the end zone and gets it done. He's been doing well for numerous clubs. He just came back from winning a title for Colony Ultimate, and he's gone and won the duelio here. Truly the greater achievement of the day. As we take us back to the break, and there'll be another couple of minutes before the women's final resumes. There were like 3 guys there, and I was like, sweet, I know there's 3 guys, and then there were like 10, and I was like, there's a bunch of dudes.
Bunch of people, I don't know.
I don't know them. I'm really glad some of that I knew one.
What you need, then you get close. Underneath rhymes, I'ma need mine too, like I need yours. So rejuvenating, musing, mating, grooving through the ropes on the coast, when maneuver making, choosing, raking through on a cruise to the innermost. See a host making toast with a hostess with the focus and ferocious love to share. Get it all, the notion of a potion, lotion, rub it on and need some right there. Only love, right above, can find there's plenty room to glide, cause only love survives this love, so right now gently in tonight. I know what I want, I know what I need affection, yeah, gotta work that out for me. I know what I want, I know what I need affection, no. I know what I want, I know what I need.
Welcome back to the second half of this women's division final here at the Australian Ultimate Championships on the beautiful Gold Coast. Rather, should I say, the intermittently beautiful Gold Coast. We're just preparing ourselves for a smattering of rain, and also now the sun is back. But one thing has remained constant is the quality of the ultimate and the wind. It is largely right to left. Was a bit gusty in that first half, but has now turned down to much more manageable pace as Ellipsis from Melbourne, the two-time defending champions, come out on defense here with an 8-3 lead. And GWS from Sydney with coming off the back of a remarkable regular season, look to establish themselves as we come into the second half.
We see this pull rolling into the low side of the field, the wind being a crosswind coming towards us.
It's going to be very difficult for GWS to advance it off the sideline as Handley goes to Mortimer. Mortimer goes to Reeve in the center here. Reeve to Monty. Monty throws the hammer.
That is spicy.
Yeah, Monty, an incredible receiver, and also sometimes she throws the frisbee, giving Ellipsis a chance to go into the wind on offense here, and Ellipsis have been absolutely deadly with those opportunities. They haven't taken that many. The GWS defense has been ferocious and has been able to get blocks, as we see there.
That is just too far in front of Ma.
Let's see if they can convert here. They've been able to get blocks, but haven't been able to put them in the first half. Some defensive offense adjustments. Could see them striking well. But again, just that disc sailing downwind. It's coming very much into the camera now. A slight right to left bend, but we're working much more now with a crosswind. So it's going to be interesting to see which of the teams is able to adapt best to this. As Ma takes an excellent grab for Ellipsis, but just unable to back that up with a nice throw to Cersei, who does her best to dig it out of the ground. And GWS shoot to the end zone, and then Barnes takes the grab. She's gotten it done, a big twirly whirly, and that's 8-4.
That was a fantastic put up from Reed, crossfield from the high side into space onto the low side, knowing that that wind would carry that disc.
Yeah, and just enough edge on that one to keep it floating in the wind there. Dropping nicely, and Barnes, safe hands always. So GWS will be happy that one, and Ellipsis still with a commanding lead in this game. But the Ellipsis offensive line, which has looked absolutely unshakable up until now, will come out onto this line. See what they can do. It's no longer downwind. They don't really have the wind at their backs to their advantage anymore. So it's a much more even game. We've seen a lot of action in this left-hand end zone thanks to the wind in the first half, but now it's anybody's game, and it's going to be more important to play down that high side of the field. The field's far away from the camera. You can take good shots from there. Disc will sit up much more nicely. Taken from the low side, will just get pushed immediately out of the field. As that pull comes up and lands nearer to this side, Prentice to Chow. Chow with the disc in the center here. Chow with no early options. Goes to Prentice, striking up the line. Prentice looks long. Holsters well. Goes to Egan Griffiths, but that's out of her reach. There's some cracks showing in the Ellipsis offense going into the wind here. Hudson brings in this for GWS, advances to Carmen, who takes the break side shot to Monty. Monty puts one in the air. She's got Patty on the end, but Weatherall goes up with two hands and eats that for breakfast. Chow with the disc. Taking her time here, assess her options, finds Martins inside. Martins to a bidding Prentice. Prentice into the wind, stable as you like, finds Chow. Chow to Phillips. Phillips has got Weatherall out the back, and she puts that one up. It's got just enough float on it, and it's dropping in too early.
Patty got her hands all over that one. Weatherall had no chance.
Yeah, it was just dropping too early. I mean, everybody in the booth here, everybody in the sidelines expected a primo dime from Phillips to be dropping right on top of Weatherall, but Paddy doing an amazing job of reading the disc and just putting it with a two-handed swat into the ground. GWS with another chance here. They'll be bringing the disc up in on the high side of the field, so potentially looking for an early inside break. Hudson with the disc. Hudson to Paddy, but Paddy only likes to play defense. And Ellipsis with a short field to work. Palmer with the disc. No early options, goes inside, sees Chow. And looks like there's a call on the field. Egan Griffiths with the disc.
Sorry?
Contested foul. Clearing.
Good audio insight there. Outcome being that the foul was contested. Ellipsis swinging that disc round.
Egan Griffiths shoots to the end zone.
To nobody.
Might have been using a little bit of educational throwing. If you throw it, they will learn that that's where you're going to put the frisbee, and next time they'll be there.
Hopefully, Egan Griffiths and Weatherall can build that connection up, leading to Cincinnati. Being the first season they've played together.
Absolutely, and Egan Griffiths, an absolute glue player for this Ellipsis team, able to get it and move it into great directions as Paddy takes a contested grab on Weatherall, goes up the line to Carmen. Carmen with no options at the moment. It left her stranded on an island, and she's got out a nicer round throw, but no one was there and ready for it. As Ellipsis pick up the disc, move it quickly, and Phillips in an acre of space, the back of the end zone. 9-4. GWS putting up a valiant attempt here, able to get a lot of blocks on this Ellipsis offense, but not able to really punish and just looking too much for that deep option. We can see a lot of catchers stretching really far away from the disc, but leaving their thrower stranded with no reset options, and too much work to do there.
Many turnovers this point, as we see. Couple of Ds, and then it's finally getting punched into Phillips in the end.
Yeah, Martin's with a lovely throw there into the wind. Able to set that up, and Phillips outpacing a defender.
Phillips is now hold back, 9-4, maintaining that 5-point lead. Coach is giving their players instructions on the line. Shout out to everyone who's stuck around to watch this final.
It's a very, very exciting men's final just before this game, but the real action is only coming now in this game as we see a dominant first half performance from Melbourne's Ellipsis. Looking strong coming into the second half here, but they're going to have to work hard to back it up. Justice with some very effective pointing and traffic directing, setting up this Ellipsis defense here as Handley brings the disc to the brick mark. Ellipsis setting a zone defense here, but it's very spread out and forces a difficult throw straight away. Justice to Tremuth. Tremuth finds Dennis. Dennis taking the time she needs to find Cersei. Cersei's got you, but she's popped that one in the air. And Reeve, lurking in the deep space, eats that up. Finds Hudson, finds Parker. Parker looks up the line, and that's a spicy one. Handley had to watch the line and the disc and her defender and just can't make the grab. Ellipsis with another chance to make it happen. They've been advancing very, very well. They're able to get a good 2 to 3 cuts through together, but the second last throw before the end zone, they're getting a bit hasty and there's execution errors creeping into their game. Cersei on the low side here, be looking to push it high side. Goes around to Justice. Justice looking to shoot. She's got Anderson lurking in the deep space. Dennis with the disc. Hughes off the end. And that throw just dropping short. Dennis looked at it, hesitated, and then threw a little second later, so it wasn't very in flow, and Hughes was already a little deeper than the thrower wanted.
Shen just eating that one up for breakfast.
Great positional play from her. Ellipsis coming down into the zone again. It's very loose, and you guarding the dump space here. Dennis on the mark. Treadwith and Palmer playing quite close. Anderson a bit wider, and then Cersei and Justice patrolling deep. GWS advancing well, though. Reeve with the disc. Reeve to Parker. Parker to Reeve. And Reeve, just a careless throwaway. Can't connect with Perriman in the dump space.
Just rushing through that zone a little bit too quickly.
Fast feet, slow hands. You've got to run quickly, move your body quickly, but the disc control has to be there. It's all too easy to move yourself and get ahead of yourself as Justice finds Cersei. Cersei looks for Justice up the line. She's very free here and goes around, and that one over the stack, dropping into Palmer. It looks like there's been a pick signaled there. Justice potentially looking for Anderson in the end zone there. Anderson making that big open side cut, looking to Justice, hoping she'll plant and turn and looking break side. Palmer with a great awareness to catch that one. And it'll go back to Justice on a pick. Justice floats one out in the front of the end zone, but that is an ill-advised shot. She won't be happy with that one. Ellipsis have turned it over, and numerous times in that corner there, they're really being baited. Leading flicks down there are always extraordinarily difficult, even for a very accomplished thrower like Justice or Cersei. Need to make life easy for themselves and work on the high side. GWS staring down this zone again, and as Zubid's in front of the disc and quickly recovers. Parker with a rush throw, and GWS all the time in the world as they shoot inside to Tremworth, who grabs it behind her body. Inside again, Cersei in the air. Ellipsis doing what needs to be done, but not taking the easy route. Cersei goes inside. Yu with a strong grab, has her feet planted in the end zone. There'll be a question of whether or not her feet were in. It was definitely very close. She had to lean over to catch that. And there's a goal signal by Betty Tan from GWS. So thank you very much for the perspective on the field. Great spirit. Ellipsis extend their lead 10-4. Good buddy.
Now, Rob, do you reckon this game is going to go to time cap, or will we hit that point cap of 15 first? What are your thoughts?
Judging by the rate at which Ellipsis is scoring, I think they will get to 15 quite quickly. Part of that's counting out a late surge from this GWS team. Could really put them in with a shot here. If they're able to start converting after they're getting blocks on Ellipsis, then we could see a much longer game and the time cap could come into it. But of course, 100 minutes is a very high target. And these teams have been scoring at quite a decent clip. But we'll see how that holds up as the win is seemingly increasing late in the game.
Now, I'm just having a quick look over some of the scores that have been put on Ellipsis so far during this tournament. The team who managed to get the most points on them was actually Brisbane Fuse in the opening game of the tournament, putting 9 points on them. So let's see if GWS can reach that target or potentially even push and punish Ellipsis.
Yeah, I'd like to see a late game adjustment from GWS. It seems like they've definitely got more in the tank. Holly Reeve was quoted as saying that she believes that her team can take out the title against Ellipsis, and that's the kind of belief that they're going to need in their team to make it happen here. Of course, coming into the brick mark is going to help them, but they're staring down a ferocious Ellipsis zone. This one slightly differently arranged to previously, but O'Connor with the disc. Finds Monty on the low sideline here. She's not got a lot of options. There's not a lot of crashes happening. She's taking a late huck. It's dropping in on Carmen. That wing left unguarded, and Carmen, still no options, floats one up, but it's popped in the wind, and any other day, that's a score for Monty, but today, She's put just slightly too much outside in on it. It's not held its edge in the wind.
Carmen was really patient there, trying to look for that right cut, and she had Monty streaming through a lot earlier, but she decided to wait until she was in exactly the space that she wanted her, and like you said, any other day, that throw would have come off and been a goal.
But today is today. You've got to play it as you like, and there's a very important violation called, of course. The marker cones are part of the field, and you are not allowed to alter the field, so it's good to see our players following the rules here as Ellipsis advances. And that's a block for GWS.
Oh my gosh.
Right on the end zone line there.
That could have been a Callahan. Oh, and GWS score.
Incredible work, Monty, to gather the disc and find Mortimer. That's great work. That's a great block. Way to stick a hand out there, and a lot of players under that disc, not letting it fall back to Ellipsis. GWS with a very quick punish there. That's 10-5.
Now that would have been a golden moment if we'd gotten a Callahan in the final game.
Absolutely, but popping up a little too much into the wind and too many players all in that area to allow that completion to come off. GWS will be happy with that though. They'll take their defense when it comes. And we'll get to see the Ellipsis O-line out on the field again. Going left to right this time as the wind is solidly settled into a crosswind, coming directly towards the camera and only increasing in intensity.
Couple of speckles on the camera there, the far one that was facing the Ellipsis line. Still a couple of drops coming here and there, but nothing too hectic at this stage.
It's a lovely pull from Reeves. Great outside in edge to hold against the wind. Fielded well by Prentice to Chow to Ma. They've moved quickly to the low side, taking the open options there. Chow attacking this GWS zone that's come down. And hands in the mess there. GWS get a cheap block close to the end zone. There's a lot of pressure. Let's see if they can convert. It'd be something they've struggled with a lot through this game. But they've got a good opportunity here to get 2 in a row. Reeve bounces that one into the wind and it's sitting. And Prentice makes sure of that. GWS unable to complete a throw given the chance. Chow and Prentice making short work of this zone, using a lot of short spaces, but not gaining a lot of yardage at the moment and just advancing further towards the downwind side. Ma open in the center there to Chow. Chow advances, but there's no sit on that disc and Vano unable to snatch it up. So there's a much better field position for Ellipsis, but they don't have the Frisbee anymore.
No, but if they generate a block early, they'll have the advantage here. GWS are going to struggle to get out of this corner.
Yeah, the GWS offense has not increased in their effectiveness as Prentice barely dodges the camera. And GWS working strongly down the sideline now. Carmen with the disc. Carmen shoots up the line, and that's going to stay in the field right until it goes out the back of the end zone. It's held its edge, it's held its line, but not a single iota of float or sit on that one, and no receiver with a bid at it. Parker being asked to do a lot there.
She was lucky that that one stayed within the bound zone. There's nothing worse than putting an outside in throw down the field, and when you've got awful wind, having it never come back in, and then it has to be taken up from when the throw exited the field.
Absolutely. It's one of the many risks of playing down this low sideline here. As Chow fields the disc, she advances to Phillips, and they're working on the high sideline. Beautiful throw. Ma's got Weatherall out the back. Takes the crossfield for Vano. Lovely touch there. Martin's with the disc. Martin's got Phillips up the line. Takes her time, but throws it. Vano's open, and Chow's there. Looks like she gets a hand under it, but it's worth asking the question. Full points for the roly-poly.
Game advisor Lucy Alexander been asked for her perspective of being right there by the play. Let's get a replay of that. Let's get that close up. Oh, that's very close.
Very, very close. I think it's best that it goes back. Look like the disc was caught at the same time as that back edge touched the ground. So a minuscule difference there, and goes back to Phillips. No doubt she'll put a better one out there this time. Waiting on that low sideline. Vano Chow clearing. Goes around. Martins with the disc. Martins a beautiful around, but that one dropping into the ground. His Ellipsis players keeping it low to avoid the wind. It's much smoother down there as Hudson goes wide. Shoots long, and Parker again having a real rough time out the back there. GWS just shooting for position at this point, and the Ellipsis offensive squad working it into the wind and keeping it nice and low. Stay out of the wind there, but not popping up when they needed it to, and definitely popping up when they don't. As Martins puts it over the head of Ma, but Phillips, patrolling the skies, takes the grab, goes back to Prentice. Prentice looks long. Ma's there with the disc. She's got a streaking Vano. Puts it out in front, but Vano sticks out the hand, not ready for the grab. Could have used the left.
She had the body position on that, and she had a couple more seconds, so she could have grabbed it with two hands, but just bounced out of the palm of her hand there.
Yeah, a little execution error from Vano there, but Ellipsis will be happy with their ability to work at 99% of the way for a goal here, trusting in their defense to get another block. As the shot goes up immediately, and Carmen underneath that one.
That was a great belly grab.
Absolutely. GWS barely holding on here. Reeve fakes the big, shoots the inside, but just everybody's making life tough for Park at this point. So Chow brings in this, goes easily around to Phillips. Phillips with a powerful inside through the hands of Martins and into the waiting hands of Reeve out the back. Reeve advances to Barnes, Barnes to Carmen. No deep options for her at the moment. She's looking high side. Big shoulder fake, looks off Reeve in the dump space, and then throws it. Weatherall doing a great job of realizing that Carmen hadn't engaged Reeve for a dump, so she's jumped in front, used that wingspan to get a nice block. Phillips brings the disc in here. Prentice on the open side, but she shoots inside and it sails into the air. Weatherall's got that for days. Chow's out the back. Weatherall holsters, finds Ma. Ma's got Chow coming under, takes the inside to Phillips. Phillips shoots to the end zone. Weatherall just out the front for no, waiting for that disc. And Ellipsis, patience here. Discipline required. Chow with the disc. Big around fake. Not a lot of movement in the end zone, but Chow finds the inside to Prentice, and there's a pick goal.
There's been great patience by these Ellipsis players right in front of the end zone. Sometimes it's easy to rush that throw in, but
Yeah,
Weatherall taking the dump.
Saw that as one of the differentiators massively in the semifinals, of whether teams were able to be patient outside the end zone. As Chow shoots that one at the chest of Martins, but it's a low grab and she's ground stripped herself. So Ellipsis, 99% great right now. But Reeve marshalling the offense and gives a nice one to Parker finally. As Parker, it gives a rough one back to her dump, a little too eager to get running again. Phillips fields the disc. Ellipsis with 2 meters to go. Not a lot of movement in the end zone as Ma takes the disc on the run and then floats Phillips out into space, and she makes sure of it. Not a bad option from Ellipsis there after a few failed attempts attacking that end zone. An up line from Phillips. Safe hands, safe legs.
That was a great dump play there by Phillips, just essentially dumping off to Ma right behind her and then just going straight diagonally up the line for that give go, for the score.
And that's 11-5 Ellipsis. So in the second half, it's definitely been a lot more difficult for the Ellipsis offense to work their way up the field, and it's difficult to credit the GWS defense for all of that, but they can definitely be said to have been using the wind well. The wind making life tough for everybody. Ellipsis persevering well, but the scoring rate has absolutely decreased. These points are getting longer and longer, so fatigue is going to come into it, and execution errors will be punished immediately by the wind. It's very difficult to get away with anything here.
These teams calling a timeout, unsure as to which end has called it, but I wouldn't be surprised from either end. I think Ellipsis are sort of not clinging on to that big, strong offensive lead that they had earlier in terms of that points difference is relatively similar to earlier. They're not punching in their offensive points as quickly. GWS, on the other hand, they just need to find that other gear to be able to convert. They're getting blocks, they're getting turns on Ellipsis, which many teams struggle to do, but they need to just find that thing that's going to get them the conversion. Like Reeve and Monty have been doing a great job in the deep space and the handler space, working that through. But in terms of what's going to get it into that end zone is my question for them.
Yeah, they definitely need to make some adjustments, offensively speaking. Ellipsis.
House party win!
This game's not over yet. We've seen bigger comebacks than this, even at this tournament. Sydney's Rogue pulling off 2 of them in their semi-final and their quarter-final, and then the bronze game earlier today. As that pull lands just in the field, and the win is picked up at exactly the wrong time for GWS. O'Connor goes to Hudson. Hudson looks for Handley. They're advancing it to the high side. This is good, principled offense from them. But Mortimer can't catch the disc. Just out front of the end zone. And Ellipsis D-line. Twemrith with the disc. Goes over the shoulder to you, and that's attacking that low side. Floats that one up, and you able to grab it. It's 12-5, Ellipsis with a ruthless punish. It's much more disciplined end zone attack than we've seen earlier.
Definitely, and GWS, like you said, that wind really picked up at the wrong time for them, and they just had a clean drop and what should have been a quick short throw. But not only does the wind make throwing more difficult, it makes catching a lot more difficult as well. The disc can just bobble and do weird things, and you have to just be really focused on your catch.
Absolutely, and so it's tough to remain focused here. This GWS team is going to need a massive burst of intensity and fire if they're going to keep getting the blocks that they've been getting and keep working and generating the open space that they've needed for their offense. As Ellipsis are breathing down the neck of a 3rd national title in a row.
After this tournament, they will continue their training, and they have a number of different warm-up training camps and tournaments and games leading up to Cincinnati. I believe they are going to Japan.
Absolutely. It's clearly the dominant force here at Australian Nationals. They're travelling abroad to seek greater foes. As that disc just landing in and fielded by Betty Tan. Betty goes up to Handley. Handley looks long. Cartman's out the back. It's sitting very nicely. Cartman with the sprint and the leaping grab. That's 12-6. GWS, this is the signs of life we were looking for.
Holy heck, that was such a clean offensive point. That was that 2-throw offensive score like we saw from Ellipsis in the starting point of this game. And we saw that nice, clean, clinical execution, cuts and throws. And that's exactly what the GWS girls did just then. That throw was weighted fantastically from Handley down the field, huge backhand, just curves it nicely into space, one-handed grab there from Carmen, the captain.
Absolutely. Handley, just a die-hard thrower, and has just been doing so much for this GWS team as the conditions worsen. And all across the week, powerful throwers who are able to hold their own in the wind have become worth their weight in gold. Handley proven it for this GWS team. And remarkable poise shown by the young player Betty Tan on the sideline here. Chow coming down, putting an extremely aggressive mark, but Tan not forcing anything and finding a dump up the line quite well. As that pull lands in, is rolling yet again to the slow side. So both teams looking to trap their opposing offense on the line. as Chow will take it to the brick mark, or attempt to.
And I think Lucy, the game advisor, is just clarifying that the disc rolled out so she can't take it to the brick. It's only if it lands out on the full.
Indeed. Chow looking for Prentice up the line. Prentice having to make a diving bid to even be anywhere near that disc. Chow not able to dump down the line like Tan can. As Reeve looks off Parker in the open space, goes up to Carmen in the center of the field. Carmen finds Reeve plus a bidding defender. Reeve doesn't take advantage of the no mark for a second there. Shoots a late inside, and Egan Griffiths eats that one for breakfast. Prentice with a disc. Egan Griffiths comes screaming through the middle, takes the grab there, dishes off well to Phillips. Phillips goes around, and Martin's in the air. And that is an absolutely challenging grab. That disc moving with a lot of pace. Martin's unable to close her hands around it. Reeve with a disc on the low side of the field. Finds Chan in the center of the field. Chan resets backwards to Carmen. Carmen goes around to Reeve. Reeve to Parker. Reeve getting every other at the moment. Drawing the matchup of Martins.
Reeve just showing her skill as a key player for this team, and the disc bubbles out into Martin's hands.
Yeah, looked like a solid touch on the mark there. And players not quite realizing what's happened. Maybe it was a foul they were thinking, but Chow's gone to Egan Griffiths, and they'll discuss whether or not that was down. And that certainly is. Egan Griffiths ready to get going straight away, but GWS punishing the fast movement.
They want to get a break here. They want to break Ellipsis.
This is very good. This is the signs of life that we've seen. Parker with the disc here. No options to speak of at the moment. Goes around, looks for Reeve, but that one's sitting in the wind. Put into the ground by Egan Griffiths. Got to make sure of it. Ma, the other half of Caro and Sally, picks up the disc with a beautiful around break immediately to Phillips. Phillips up to Ma, but that one picked up in the wind. That's a powerful offensive move, but Phillips is slightly too much outside in there, and that just getting caught in the wind. It's very difficult to lead those inside flicks. But Phillips almost getting there, which is closer than a lot of other people get.
This wind getting particularly gusty now. This is going to be a challenge, but at least GWS are bringing it in on the high side.
Hudson with the disc in the center, finds Shen. Shen up to Carmen. Moving much closer to this low side as the wind increases in pace and strength. Reeve in the center finds Parker. Parker looks to Carmen. Carmen's got the disc. Looks off Shen in the open lane. She's got Chen out the back. Goes around to Reeve. Sitting nicely in the wind there. Reeve guarded by Egan Griffiths. Reeve looking at churning cutters. Carmen open in the honor space, but a difficult grab, and Reeve could have made that easier for her, but who knows if an easier throw would have propelled itself in the wind. So there's a very long point here. As the Ellipsis call a timeout. The offense is going to have to reset themselves. This is far more turnovers than they used to.
Can I just point out something that Holly Reeve has been doing fantastically? She's been getting really low on her release, but putting just enough edge on those discs so that it doesn't stay on the ground. It lifts up just enough to come to the chest of the receiver. Just looks really strong.
Yeah, she's been getting every other at the moment, and it's been interesting to see the different matchups that she's getting from the Ellipsis. At the moment, she's previously been covered by Martins, but she's drawn Dignam, Phillips, World Games level defensive players looking to shut down this rising star. And yet she's still quarterbacking this GWS offense and providing a consistent deep deterrent. It's going to be interesting to see if the GWS defense can truly mitigate her impact in the later stages of this game. She's been keeping the team alive, along with incredible efforts from the rest of her squad, particularly the throwers. Hudson, Handley, Perriman, putting a lot in and keeping this disc flowing. As we come out of the timeout, Martin's with a disc for Ellipsis, finds Ma. Ma, that backhand to Egan Griffiths, one of her favorites. Egan Griffiths to Prentice. Prentice to Egan Griffiths. Egan Griffiths, the most improved player, even after having played for the Open Age women's team. She finds Martins on the wrist the first attempt, but makes sure of it the second. Chow on the low side. Chow floats a backhand into the middle of the field to Prentice, to Egan Griffiths, to Ma. This is the short, sharp pass that their offense is known for, and it's doing a very effective job against this defense as Egan Griffiths with a little hop and Ellipsis extend their lead 13-6.
There has been a call that Egan Griffiths was not in, though.
Yeah, we can see they'll have a chat about it, get a couple of perspectives, and it turns out we were right all along. 13-6 Ellipsis. So GWS, valiant push. Down a lot early in the game, looking like they were holding on, but not being completely outclassed or outgunned here, really staying in the game, but just drifting away, getting 1 point every so often, and really we're having to work so hard for it. And just every now and then, Ellipsis will come out and put in an offensive point, easy as you like, looking unpressured, untouchable. And GWS haven't been able to match that level of offensive efficiency.
That being said, this is the first time in a couple of years that I've really seen Ellipsis being pushed and forcing them to make a lot of skill errors that they wouldn't usually make. I think their last season they just went so unstoppable. In 2016, in their inaugural year, they got pushed a couple of times by rival clubs such as Rogue and Bauhaus, but they've just been unstoppable since then.
Absolutely. This is a much closer final than last year, and Ellipsis will be grateful for the tight competition here, and GWS are really working for it and bringing it to them. Hudson with no options to start early. Mortimer, grab under pressure, up to 10. Mortimer demanding the disc. 10 does what she likes, finds Handley on the low side. Handley the cannon, guarded by Palmer the truck. Oh, and that one just floats into the air over the hands of her dump. And it's an Ellipsis disc. Meehan with a disc in the center here, anchoring this defensive offense. Finds Dennis on the low sideline. Dennis wants to shoot. He's got to maintain possession. Looks for Chung in open lane. And Monty with a grab there. Everyone's okay. Bit of biff is no worries. Monty's got Betty Tan on the open side, but elects to throw it to nobody out the back instead.
Sounds like there's been a bit of a discussion of what's happening in the lane, though. Perhaps it was a pick.
Yeah, it looks like a pick was called in the question, and it looks like the pick was called well before the throw went up. So that'll be a stoppage and no turnover as possible. Disc will return to Monty.
Perhaps the intended receiver of that stopped moving as a result of the pick call, and that was why it looked like it was a throw to nobody.
Yeah, it's a tough one for GWS here. They've definitely gotten away with something, but they're not in a great position. There's not a lot they can do here on this low side of the field as Monty's unable to complete an upwind pass, and Ellipsis off to the races. Dignam picks up, finds Meehan. Dignam with a beautiful turn, comes back, open side, fakes it, finds Justice. Justice looking to the end zone, shoots inside. Dignam on the floor. He's got a hand underneath it. But there's a down call from GWS, and they'll talk about it.
Got the replay of that now. Let's see. Oof.
Well, to stay with Dignam, the perspective on the field is rules above all. Justice with a disc. Oh, and Cersei looks to be open, but Monty comes off a player for a great poach block. Hudson with a disc again. GWS defense keeping them in this game. Hudson finds Monty in front of the camera. Monty in the same position as before. Can't get it off to Hanley. And that's a big hand block from Cersei. Credit to Palmer on the dump defense. Oh, and she's floated that one up. It's over the head of Digman, and it's all GWS there, but Chung comes down with it.
There has been a pick called, though. Monty just trying to establish the fact that she was unable to catch up to Dingham.
Yeah, there were a lot of players in a small space there, and GWS unable to catch that one, and Chung with a great read and snatching that one up, but all the people in the space preventing good defense being played, and Chung floats that one up. And Palmer with a presence of mind. She was definitely looking for Cersei there, but Palmer getting a lot of leftovers out the back there. Doing well with a disc as Ellipsis put themselves on game point, 14-6.
If Ellipsis get this next D, it's game over. But that being said, you have to win the final point to win the game. So GWS still have a chance, and they still have many a chance, but they will have to punch in the next 9 goals.
Yep, I would describe their chance as mathematical.
Difficult, but not impossible.
Absolutely. So, some final instructions being given by the coaches here. Steve Wright happy to let Kat Phillips call the line, relying her experience and knowledge of the other team to assign matchups. GWS puts on a strong line. Reeve returning to the field here, backed up by a cast of heroes. Beautiful pull goes up. And it's touched by Reeve, but not picked up. She'll advance at high side to Perriman. Perriman goes to Chan. GWS looking good already off the back of a couple of breaks, but Chan with no easy options. Shoots a flick, finds Perriman in the center, swings through O'Connor. O'Connor goes around to Carmen. A lot of players very close to the disc here for GWS, not a lot of separation. Carmen forces the around, finds Reeve. Reeve goes inside, sees Perriman. Perriman's got cutters out the back. Elects not to take them, and there's a pick called.
Been quite a few picks in this game, haven't there?
Yeah, the GWS offense is interesting. There's a lot of players, and they're relying on a lot of short, sharp cuts rather than a lot of isolation play. See a lot of teams relying on a lot of stationary cutters all out of the way, yielding a lot of space to one person to do whatever they like. GWS not playing this style as Carmen gets the disc on the high sideline and just puts that right into O'Connor's face. Not a nice one to catch as Ma fields the disc, goes to Egan Griffiths. Back to Ma. Kat Phillips on the break side going deep to Egan Griffiths. Prentice with a disc, she's got cutters going long. Goes to Egan Griffiths. And Perriman's calling a push off there. She'll say that as Egan Griffiths moved to get separation going backwards, might have been a bit of an arm involved. Looks like that's uncontested, and they'll have a chat about the stall count. Prentice with the disc. Prentice over the top finds Ma. Ma looks to the end zone. Holsters early, looks around late, and is blocked. That's incredible work from Shannon. GWS not giving up without a fight here. Perriman brings in the disc. Reeve in the lane, guarded by Egan Griffiths, unable to get open. Perriman goes to Shen. Shen looks for Carmen. Back to Perriman. Perriman in the center of the field, goes wide, drops nicely in on Carmen. Carmen looks long, and then finds patience. Goes around to Reeve. Reeve's got Barnes out the back. Fakes big. Reassesses her options. She's got Carmen and Perriman, but not a lot of movement. Floats one out. Barnes coming screaming in for that. Barnes puts one up. It's floating in front of Carmen, but she doesn't go for it. Looked like that was intended to go deeper, and she just let it sit there. Phillips fields her Ellipsis, looks long, and puts that one well into the air. And Egan Griffiths with the read. Chow open in the end zone. Ellipsis looking to ice the game. Back to Phillips. Egan Griffiths on the open side. Tightly guarded here. Weatherall with a cut back and then up the line.
But
looking at jumping into the goal there. Weatherall's got it. She's got the winning goal, and that is 15-6. Ellipsis are your national champions once again with the 3-peat.
Ellipsis taking the gold with them over to Ohio. They will be ecstatic that their record has gone unbroken. They have been undefeated all season for 3 seasons.
Absolutely. It's at least 2 years in a row since they've lost a single game. Truly a dominant performance here in this division. Full credit to GWS, really showed up and really gave them a fight, really pushed and made them work for it. But it's been a long tournament and we are happy to finalize here and crown a champion. I've been your commentator, Rob Swan. I've been here with my co-host, Katie Locke. Thanks for having us this weekend. This has been amazing action. All of this will be available on the Ultimate Australia YouTube page going forward.
Special shout out as we sign off to Ulti TV for making this production happen, along with the AFDA as well. Appreciate the support from all of the volunteers.
And a big shout out, of course, to our sponsors, Australian Unity and Emma and Tom's. Making our life possible, making our life easy.
Ulti.tv